recording. Okay, awesome, awesome. Welcome, guys, to I don't even know what session this is, 3 or 4. It's kind of all kind of four. Okay, four, session four. Great to be here. It's kind of like really flying by, and one thing that I do with my one-on-one coaching, and I take the same mentality with me as in a group program. This is really kind of the first official kind of group program I've hosted on something that I truly was like aligned with and working on myself and still working on, which is why I feel like it's going to be one I'll never forget. All of you who are here live, just put it like that. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today, which is something really important. And before we get into that, I guess I should say, when it comes to my coaching, when I coach people, I have like a nice format that I like to follow. And I've realized there hasn't been one person I've ever coached. There's never been any kind of, even when I was doing other kind of group stuff that I've ever done, and I've kept everything right on track. I've always done it based off of what was needed. And I'm not afraid to change things for something that will benefit people. My goal here is to be a blessing. And I felt we've taken this program in ways I never saw us going. I had planned like, oh, the second session we're gonna do this, the third one we're gonna do this. But one thing that I've realized is yes, from the heart, of course. And one thing that I've realized is that, and a great pattern that I've adapted that I just want to share with you here is be careful when you're sticking to just plans. That's a pattern that someone has. Someone who has to stick to the plan, stick to, I have to do it like this. That is a pattern. And I can say that running things when I've just run a program, just like, okay, here's what we're doing the first session, the second session, it never feels right because there's things that I might be thinking about, like, I really want to talk about this, but it's on the schedule to do this. So if there's one thing I could say is never be afraid to go off the beaten path. Go with how you actually do feel in your heart. Go with that intuition that you have. It's never let me down, and it's showed me other parts of myself. And doing all that has kind of led me to kind of what we're talking about today, which I feel like a lot of people need, other than what we had planned to talk about, and that is the big F word: fear, fear, guys, fear. Okay, that's one of the worst F words that I think is out there is fear, and because our lives are kind of dictated on it. We so many of the things that we do is driven by our fear. I feel like a lot of people we kind of look at it like, no, I'm not really fearful of it, but most of the decisions that we all make are fear. I think that, and one thing we're gonna get a little bit interactive today because I don't want to be. I had planned for all of these kind of sessions to be kind of short and sweet, and they've kind of all been amazing, long, and worth the time, of course. But I feel like what I really want to talk about is that fear. I want to give you guys some practical tools that you can use to get over it. Basically, all the choices that we make are from fear. A lot of times we choose something, we're choosing the part that is less fearful, the part that scares us the most. If you guys can remember from last week, we talked about our life is dictated by two things: pain and pleasure. These two things, pain and pleasure. So when we're fearful of something, if we look at the energetics, because one thing I really talk about, I haven't touched on it this much because I feel like I keep on feeling like that's its own program, but energetics means the reason why you do something. So the energetics behind me showing up is because I want to be a blessing to you guys and I enjoy it. And you feel that. You feel my energy like I want to be here. I was at an all you can eat pizza thing this evening actually, and I was like, we're eating and I'm looking at my watch like, actually, I kind of want to get back. Project Alpha starting like 25 minutes. And it's like I truly want to be here. That's like my energetics going in here. And it's everything revolves around this time that I have with you guys. I had 2 client calls this morning, which were great, and I was like, well, is there something here I can add to Project Alpha tonight? Like this is what my main focus is. And I think that when you go about things like that, the energetics behind it is much different than if I'm like, oh, I'm at this all you can eat pizza. It finishes in an hour and I'm leaving and showing up. Well, I'm gonna just show up and whatever. We'll wing it, see how it goes. I think when you do that sets things up to be a different kind of energetics, as in like I really want to do it. Now I know today's not about energetics. I could have done it all about energetics, but once you can understand this, energetics is powerful. Energetics is, for example, it's me looking at what I'm doing right now, not like, oh, I have to do Project Alpha tonight. I have to go and see this. I have to go and see Sherry. I hope that she's gonna get something out of it. Or I have to be here. Like it's not that. What if I change my energetics to this is what I get to do. This is what I get to do. I get to be in front of a group and help some people. And all of you guys who are watching this replay, I get to be here and share this with you guys when I was truly embodied in something teaching. And this is something that's so true. It changes the energetics. So when you take away fear, because fear is something it holds so many people back. And one of the fears that we have, or the fears that we project, is always not what we think it's going to be. I'm sure everyone in here, we can think of something we were so scared to do. Like, if I do this, I'm going to die, the world's going to stop, and it's game over. Like, and when you do it, and you're like, that wasn't so bad. That wasn't so bad. You know, and we always do this. We do it all the time. I do it with myself. As you guys know, I was a pro athlete for 12 years. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, I was in the peak of my career when I stopped playing. And, you know, from a team standpoint, it doesn't make sense. I'm at the peak of my career, I'm at the peak of my salary, and you only stay in the peak for so long as an athlete before mother time, father time, whatever you want to call it, just takes over. And, you know, I was like, as I tell people, like, I'm going to stop this year just for a year, take a year off, people didn't understand. And I was fearful of telling people. I was fearful of telling my family. Of course, I'm going to do it, but there's a true fear. And as we talked about in the first session, honesty is number one. You've got to be honest. And honesty was like, I was fearful to tell my family that I'm about to stop. I mean, they come visit me in all these amazing countries that I play for. Like, I enjoyed playing in France and Germany and Australia and these cool opportunities I have. And I was fearful of losing that. What could replace that? Because we'll find out, as what we'll talk about later on about human needs. We have needs that need to be met. And these needs are met one way or another. Whether it's a good way or a bad way, there's a need that we have that needs to be met. So I was fearful. I was fearful of telling everyone. And I was, you know, I remember when I told my family, and, you know, they were kind of understanding, but everyone wants to try to understand something. And eventually, I'm going to run a course on intuition. I'm still working on it myself. I want to fully integrate it before I teach it. But intuition doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense. Maybe some of you in this program, you're like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I like the guy. I know he can help me, but I don't want to pay. I don't want to give my time up for that. But there's something that's like, I got to do it. And when you override that fear, that need to be safe, that fearful brain of like, don't do that. We don't know what the outcome's going to be. The return on your investment might not be worth it. But you go against that anyways. You face the fear. You go after fear. That's when things happen. That's when you have the big breakthroughs, the changes, and you show yourself, like, I'm not fearful of you. Like, I'm not fearful of these what you put out there for, you project as of something I should be fearful of. And I think that when you can understand that, when you understand, like, wait a minute, I have nothing to be fearful of, that kind of changes everything. So when it came to me and I was making this decision, like, okay, I'm going to be leaving, be an athlete, I told my teammates, told them I wasn't be coming back the next year, told my friends, that wasn't so bad. I told the people in my city, like, hey, I'm not going to be back, but that's kind of normal because most players were always going and coming, and that's not a big deal. And I was fearful to tell my family, and I told them. And like I said, they asked me a bunch of questions. But truly, deep down in my heart, the person who I was most fearful of telling was my agent. So if you guys don't know, in sports, you have an agent who does everything for you. So I don't have to do anything but play. My agent goes and finds the team for me. My agent goes to these different managers and presents me, showing my film and talking about me. They do all that. All I do is play. That's what the agent's there for. And then he gets paid from the team to do that. So I don't ever worry about anything. But I worried about telling him I was going to stop, because if I stop, that's money he's losing. He's someone who actually has a lot to lose from me. He loses a part of my salary. He loses the connection. And if he can get me a job somewhere and I do well, that means that because he went to that team and I played well, so the team will trust him now with more players, so he does even better. And I had all these projections. You know, we've had a great friendship for the last 4 or 5 years. We've been working together. We've done some really cool deals, been some really cool places. I love his family and him. And so I had all these projections of this fear. And, you know, I made that tough call. I remember I was sitting in my apartment looking out the window like, damn it, here we go. The last and final person I got to tell. I called him up and I explained everything. You know, I said, I have a deep desire to really help people. I was like, I really want to make sure that, you know, I want to do the best that I can to be there for everyone, including myself. And I need to be in a better environment. So I feel like being a pro athlete is fun for me, but I want to do more. And he said, I remember he was just like, that's amazing, Luke. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, I don't think you heard me. I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna play next season. He's like, will that make you happy? He's like, oh, that's perfect then. If you're happy, that's good. He's like, because if you go back and you're not happy, he's like, I don't want that. And I just was just like, what? And I remember him being like, I can still like talk to teams on your behalf, and if a deal happens to come around that you're interested in, I can get you on it, but I won't promote you heavily. And I was like, okay, fine. And he called me, checked on me, are you sure that's what you wanted? As soon as we hung up the phone, and I was like, yeah. And I remember this whole projection of fear that I had of how am I going to tell him? What's he going to think? It was all a myth. It was something that I just projected. I know maybe I'm the only one, but when we project our fears, we make it 10 times bigger than what it actually is. And then we put off doing it, and then a problem does come up. And I did that, and I really, it was a big realization for me because it was something really serious and it was a big moment in my life. And it was from this fear. I almost didn't do it. I almost didn't leave, although my heart told me I should. All of you here, your heart and soul is telling you something. And we only can deny it for so long before it just gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And we just have to suppress it harder and harder and harder. But it keeps on coming. It doesn't go away. It's one of the things whenever I talk to someone, I'm looking at what it is, what drives them. I was here today in Bali and I was at a restaurant. I usually eat inside, like by the air conditioner, but all those places were full because it's so hot here. And I sit outside and kind of was sitting on the street eating. And the guy pulls up and he's just like, oh man, Luke, great to see you, man. I sent you an email a while back. And I was like, did I write you back? It's usually the first thing I always ask people now. And they're like, no. I was like, my bad. Like, I get so much information. It's hard to get back to everyone. I used to burn myself out trying to respond to everyone. Now I just like whatever I feel called to respond to. And, he started talking to me about all this stuff. He went through all these hurdles from Miami to get here. And then he got here and he watched a bunch of videos and he was inspired. And now he's been here for a long time and he has this very strict regime. He's like, I go to the gym twice a day. I do this and this. And he's like, where do you think is the best place for me to live at? I've been here for like a month and a half. I'm not sure what to do. I was like, well, you having fun? He's like, yeah. I'm like, that's amazing, man. That's awesome what you're doing. And I was like, well, he's like, yeah, I just want to keep doing this and this. And I was like, and he told me all this stuff, and I heard, and I was like, this guy really wants to help people. But he's really caught on these rules that he has. You guys remember the rules that we had? He was really stuck on these rules, like he's from military. He's a military guy. So his mindset is very much like, young, boom, boom, yes, sir. Like, and I'm like, you've made it, right? I'm like, you're free right now, and deep down you want to help people. I feel it. And I'm like, you can forget it and ignore it. I'm like, but I can guarantee you in about 2 months, going to the gym twice a day isn't going to do it for you. It's not. You're going to need to go more because you have this need to do something. And we have a need. So many of you guys here want to change the world. And I can tell you from someone who wants to change the world, that the best way to do it is to change yourself first. First of all, change the way you view the world. Because once you do that, then you have clear eyes to see things from an open perspective. And I told him something that has nothing to do with today's session, but I feel like someone here needs to hear this. And I told him, I'm like, bro, you did it, man. What you're doing right now was a dream that you had. But the question I have for you, I told him this on the street, like this is just who I am now. This is the person who I've become. And I just said, bro, I'm like, you have to figure out, what does the dream look like for you when you're living your dream? What does the dream look like for you when you're in a dream? Because no matter what we're doing, no matter where you guys are right now, no matter how much stress you have, how much frustration you have, where you are right now is a place where you wanted to be and you prayed to be here. You dreamed of being here one day. You dreamed of whatever it is, having that family, having that job, having that money to do what you want to do, having what you want. What you have now, regardless of whether you like it or not, whether it's stressful or not, you hope that this is what you wanted and you've got it. And I was telling them, a lot of we feel like we're stuck because we haven't upgraded that dream. Because like we talked about last week, I've told you, when you come to Bali, maybe some of you guys are in a cold place. I know some people in Germany, I know it's probably not too warm there right now. But I guarantee you, if you had to think about it, be like, yeah, it would be nice to be on a beach in Bali. That would be the dream right now, to be on a beach in Bali. Having a nice coconut for 80 cents. That'd be nice. But the question I'd ask for you is then, well, what's nice when you're there? What's nice when you're on that beach? You have to upgrade that. And a lot of times what we do, and I guess if I had to tie this back to what today's about, is fear, is we have this fear of, if I, this made me so happy before, and I know if I change it, I might not find something else that makes me happy. This is a huge thing that we have. This is a huge thing that we're just like, it's a fear. Because if you had no fear, you would just go from next thing to next thing. They don't have to relate. I'm gonna ask you this, and Janine, I know you just had, I think you said a little one, and I know the baby can't talk and can't really choose what it wants to do, but I bet you in about 4 or 5 years, if you take that kid to a toy store or you let that kid play around, they're gonna go around from thing to thing. They're gonna go around, love this, and then they're gonna go play with the next thing. They're gonna go play with the next thing. They're gonna go play with the next thing. They're not gonna think about, does this make sense? This next move? No. A child follows their happiness, their joy GPS. This is what they follow. And I got that word from my girlfriend Dana. She uses this all the time, like joy GPS. It's something we forget as we grow up because we're told what we need to do and how we need to think, and then we think exactly what we've been told to think, and we just repeat this process until someone tells us something different. But a kid doesn't care. A child doesn't care. Like, I can tell you personally, like, I have a niece who I love to death, and she's like 4 years old, you know, and well, she's like 12 now, but in my mind, she's 4. She's a child. She'll always be 4 years old in my mind. This is the last time I saw her. This is the last time I really was super connected. I was at home more, and I remember being 4. And I remember every time I used to come home, when I'd come back home to see her each year, she loved something completely different. One year, it was like she loved Dora. So I remember coming home, bringing her everything Dora, everything Dora. And then as she got older, these things happened faster. I go for a year and then I come back home and bring her Dora, and she's like, I don't like Dora. I was like, what do you mean you don't like Dora? Everything in your room was Dora last time I was here. She's like, nah, Dora's not cool. I was like, what made her not cool? She's like, no. She's like, I like SpongeBob. I was like, but where's the how did you go from Dora teaching you Spanish to SpongeBob, who makes no sense and cries in every single episode? Where did this happen? Where did this happen? And she's just like, and she doesn't even care. She just went to follow her joy. So then I bring her all this SpongeBob stuff. I remember buying her this season thing for SpongeBob. She loved it. Then I came back home. I remember coming back home the next year. I brought her this cool SpongeBob. I lived in Germany at the time, and I'll never forget. I brought her this really cool exclusive SpongeBob shirt and like poster with her name on it. And SpongeBob, he's called SpongeBob SquarePants, but in Germany he's called SpongeBob Schwammkopf. So I brought her this like SpongeBob Schwammkopf, and I'll never forget, like SpongeBob Schwammkopf thing, and I gave it to her. She's like, "What is this?" I was like, "It's SpongeBob, but this is how he is in Germany. He changed his name in Germany." She's like, "I don't like him." I was like, "What you mean you don't like SpongeBob? Like you just watched all this stuff. Like I just brought you all this stuff for SpongeBob. You know?" She's like, "No, I don't like it." I was like, "Well, who do you like?" She's like, "I like Elsa." I was like, "Who the hell is Elsa?" In my mind, I was like, "Who's Elsa?" As I have all this SpongeBob SpongeBob stuff in my bag, and she's like, "Oh, she's from Frozen." I was like, "Okay, okay, so Frozen, that's what it is. All right, okay." So get her all this stuff from Frozen now. She's changed like this. There's nothing that made her. There was no fear. Like if I go from Dora to SpongeBob, from SpongeBob to Elsa, this didn't do anything. Like there's no. She doesn't need to connect the dots. She just knows that that's what makes me happy now. I've had enough of Dora, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And it's us that has to realize it. When she goes to her friends and says that, they are like, oh, well, I like this. And they all just bounce around from their joy GPS, one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. It's us that have this fear of it won't make sense. Because the one thing that we're told is people ask why. It's why I'm very careful now, especially when I'm in one-on-one with clients, about using the word why. Because there's something that's wired into us that when someone says why, we feel like we're wrong. And I got this from Chris Voss from the you can get masterclass. I recommend it for all of you guys. I don't know what your financial situation, but if you have $180 to spend for the year on masterclass, it's a investment I would highly recommend. Masterclass, and they have just all Samuel L. Jackson to Dan Brown, all these people explaining how they do stuff, and you can get in their mind. And Chris Voss talked about that. He talked about the why. You got to be very careful. How, what? These are better questions to ask. Because when I asked her, why did you, that was my first question. Like, why did you change from there? Why, like something was wrong with what she did. But it's us that we have the fear. We have this fear. Like, and it comes from people asking us why and us needing to make sense. But the one thing about our intuition is our intuition doesn't make sense. We just know we're called to do something. We feel we need to do it. And that's what we need to do. But there's fear that blocks us. So when I work with people, I talk to you guys here, and you guys say, I really want to create content and I really want to do this. Can you help me do this? It's not about content. It has nothing to do with you sharing your perspective with the world. It has everything to do with this fear that you have of why you can't. Because if you don't break down that fear, you'll always have this thing that holds you back. Because that fear will come up again. You know, I took a client of mine today. I took her through this process. Um, of course, I can't say everything that happens with the client, but one thing I can say is that they wanted to do something. They had this idea, and like most people, they had this idea that once they change environments, aka changing the job, changing the house, changing the city, changing the country, that things will get better. So I took them down this little exercise I like to do with people, where I say, boom, you just got whatever you need. You got $250,000 in your bank account. You can go away for a year. And as we went through this process, they realized, like, okay, I got this money, awesome, going away for a year. And I was like, okay, you're finally on the beach. You're finally there. What's going on in your mind? And they asked themselves this, and we went through it like, okay, 1 week, 1 month, okay, now 3 months has passed. What's on your mind? And they still have the same questions that they had when they were at home, where they are right now. And when I take people through this process, it makes you realize that money doesn't change it. Money doesn't change. It doesn't change what you think it does. Money solves the problem of you just have more of it. But if you're an unhappy person, you're just amplified by it. And I can tell you from personal experience, when you do have money or you're successful, people who don't have it and aren't successful, they don't understand why you're not happy. You know, I can tell you from being a pro athlete, there are times when I wasn't happy, but no one understood me or took me seriously. They're like, what you mean? Like, you're a star of the team everywhere you go. We're reading about you on the newspaper. We see you at all the places, but it's like, yo, I can't have a conversation with anybody. It's frustrating. It's like my first year in France. Like, yeah, it's cool. Money's cool. That's nice. I don't have to think about anything. All stuff is taken care of for this year. That's nice. But I can't have a normal conversation with someone at dinner. Like, the girl I'm dating at the time didn't even speak my language. I was just frustrated, this deep down frustration that I had. And my close friends, the same. They didn't speak it. And people were just like, you should just be happy. You should just be that way. And people tend to lack that kind of empathy. So getting back to this whole fear, no matter what happens, no matter what situation you're in, I can tell you right now, and actually, I feel my feet getting bit by mosquitoes. I brought these socks. I've got to put them on. So hope you guys can bear with me. Y'all watching the replay, hope you're enjoying this. See the human side of Superman. So when it comes to fear, I'm going to tell you right now, and we can do it. We can do a little quick intervention as well in a little bit if we have time. Is there's a fear? There's two things. Everyone in this right now, right live with me, and everyone watching the replay, you have these same exact two fears. We all do. First of all, first fear. I think I broke my knee on the table. Okay, we're good. Okay, the first fear though that everyone has is the fear that they're not enough. That's the first fear. Everyone watching this, everyone has this first fear is that they're not enough. What they're doing is not going to be enough. And the second fear that everyone has, there's only these two. They always come down to these two, is that they won't be loved. And if they're not enough, they won't be loved. You know, so when I believe it was last week, I asked you guys a question. I think it was maybe two sessions ago. I asked you the question of whose love did you crave the most growing up? This is a powerful question. From which parent did you crave the love for the most? And what you have to do to get it? It's a powerful question. Because most of you all, if you guys saw, if you did this exercise, you'll realize that you've run the same program. You're still trying to be a perfectionist, still trying to be an overachiever. And when I talk to people, I'm like, well, you've achieved all this. How does that feel? They never can achieve enough. So when you look at this and why it's such a powerful question is because what happened is as a child, when you're growing up, you realize this is what I have to do to get love. And this is what I have to do. And you felt like if you weren't perfect, you wouldn't be enough and you wouldn't be loved. And that just got programmed into your mind. And you just kept playing that over and over and over. You got to be a perfectionist. And then you need it. And then any way that you judge yourself, you're judging other people. Any way you judge someone else, you're judging any way you judge someone else, you're judging yourself always that same way. So someone who's really tough on other people, I can guess that they're pretty tough on themselves. Someone who gets really frustrated at other people, they probably get really frustrated with themselves. And I don't tell you that so now I can understand people more. No, but now you can realize and have more compassion on people. Because if someone's being hard and rude to you, then imagine what they're doing in their own head when they make a mistake. You know, except of course narcissists because they can't feel that. But for most people, like they're so hard on themselves. So if I had to ask you guys something right now, every single one of you guys here, you have some kind of objective that you want to achieve. Maybe we'll do a little sharing. We'll do a little intervention, our first one. So what I want you guys to do is to think about like what is something you've wanted to do. It doesn't matter how big or small. Just think right now. Something you wanted to do. Like something that I've been really wanted to like share more with the world, or share my story, or share my whatever it is. I want to share this. I want you to think about it. And the reason I say share is because that is sharing amplifies. You guys haven't realized that. Sharing something amplifies. Anytime you share. First time you get good news, you want to share it because it amplifies the emotion. So there's a fear that you guys have. Everyone here has something. And there's a fear. So think about that for a second. And then one of you guys, who's going to be the one to share? Who wants to share their fear? Or share a fear you have? Or maybe, you good? Okay, let's go. Okay, unmute yourself and I think you're good. Can you hear me?
So I want to,
Awesome.
yeah, so what I want to share with the world is, you know, that travel is not as scary as you think it is. Speaking mostly to my generation, I don't know that that is as relevant at you guys' age, but a lot of the people that are around me in my late 50s are like, oh my God, you're so brave. You're so, I'm like, brave. This is, you know, and there are a lot of the forums, they'll say, is it safe there? I'm like, compared to what, you know, like, come on. So I think I want to share that. And as I get into like what I'm sharing, it's like, am I going to get the facts wrong? Am I going to get the, you know, are they going to be judging me because I'm overweight? Are they, you know, it's like, it's just so much things about putting yourself out there. And I understand that there are trolls on the internet, and trying to prepare myself for those people. And
so you know.
Yeah, and I hear that they're just brutal, but you know, it's, you know, trying to overcome those things in my mind is a huge factor for me.
And so you would say that the fear would be the judgment of others.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know, I can't remember if you were here for that one. And I was saying about fear, and I was talking about people judging people. That's a huge one. Does anyone here, anyone else fearful of people judging them? Anyone? Or is it just me and Janine? Anyone? Everyone. And the one thing I can tell you is like, so many times you might try to block it out. Like, no, they won't judge me. Okay, I'm ready for that. They're gonna judge you. Everyone judges everyone. I'm talking to you right now and everyone's judging me. Like, let's see if this guy is good. Let's see if he knows his stuff. Let's see what he can do here. They're gonna judge you. So what I wanna ask you, Janine, is them judging you is, what does that mean about you if they judge you? If they say these horrible things, what does that mean to you? What would that mean about you?
Well, that they'll point out things that I already know.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's
Or that maybe, or maybe that, they'll point out things that I wasn't aware on, and I'll feel like I need to work on myself more before I put myself out there again, or I don't know.
mhm.
I don't know. I've written a few articles and they've been well received, but I've only shared them with friends. So,
Okay. Okay. So
I don't
let's
know
say
if that really counts.
but let's say you were to share it. You were to share it with the world right now. Share yourself. This is what I want to do. I want to help people out. And you get a bunch of people that say, get off the screen, they say horrible things to you. What would that mean? What would that mean about
Okay,
you
you
to
were
you?
really lagging. You were lagging a lot. I didn't understand what you said.
So okay, I'll take it slow. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So let's say you were to put this out there to the world and say why you want to do it, want to help people. And let's say you got a bunch of feedback, thousands of people all saying horrible things about you, things that you don't agree with, and some of them you do agree with, and you just don't want to hear about it. But what would that mean about you? What would you make that mean about you? Them saying that. What would that mean to you? Having them say all these horrible things to you. What would go through your head? The first thing when you open up your phone.
Maybe I'm not cut out to do this, I guess. I don't
Mhm.
know.
That's a good one. No. Okay, and if you're not cut out to do it, but you do it and people don't like it, what else does that mean about you? What else goes through your mind?
Not good enough, of course.
Not good enough. Anything else? If you think like, wow, I'm not good enough, what else?
I don't know. I mean, you do the same thing when you read reviews on hotels or whatever when you're trying to figure out a place to stay. It's like you read through and everybody's like, "Oh, this is an amazing place," and then you find one that's like there was soap in the bathroom, like
Yeah.
whatever. And you're
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, that's your problem, not
Yeah.
everybody else." So
Yeah.
you start to learn to sort through like, this is a person that's not going to be happy no matter what you do.
Hmm.
and and maybe
Absolutely.
that's where I'll go with that, as well as like remembering that those people are everywhere, and there's some people that you're never going to make happy, and you've just got to do what you think is right.
Wow. What about that? That's a pretty good. I mean, you didn't even let me say anything. You solved it yourself.
I'm rewriting my story like you told me to in the other video.
I mean, you just did it right there. You just rewrote it. That's simple. That's simple. And then the next thing I would say to you is, you can see you went down this path, and at the end of it, hearing all these negative things would make you think that you weren't enough. So now we get to that root. So what happens if you were to know that you were enough? If you were to start with that, if you were to start with, how would that, like, I am enough, no matter what? How would that feel as your starting point?
That would work.
I think so. It'd be pretty decent, because then you're not being controlled by anything. You're not being controlled by what people say. Because I can tell you one thing is, people will always judge you. Doesn't matter. One of the quotes that I love is just like, you could be the sweetest, juiciest, orangest peach in the box of peaches, but there'll be people out there who don't like peaches. Like, that's how it is. So when you start off like, I know I'm enough, and then you can drop in behind that your reason why you're doing it, like what you just shared with us in the very beginning, and you can watch the full replay and you can get it word for word. But you can say, I know I'm enough, and people over 50 need to realize it's not scary to travel. And then what if you were to just say one more thing is, I'm going to be the one that shows them that. I mean, you're in control then when you do that. You're in control. Because what happened before, the what I heard in the very beginning was, you were going to try to control the situation by waiting for these comments to come in. And when you do that, you've totally dismantled self-worth, and you've put it into other people's opinions worth of me. You understand?
And being in anticipation of the worst
Of
also
course.
attracts that. So
Absolutely. Because what would be the first thought you have the second you share something? If you're worried about people saying negative things about you, the second you share it with the world, what would you be thinking?
I don't know. The last few times I've shared anything in writing has been like, yes, it's out there.
Mm-hmm. But
So it hasn't been, it hasn't been bad.
But what would your first thought? You've now shared it. You've made this video, your first video. You put it out there explaining why you want to do it. You push send and it's uploaded out there for the world. What's your thoughts now? The second that is uploaded, you see it's live.
I just hope that it helps somebody else.
It's amazing. So if you think that, if that's your thought, then who cares what people say back? And the secret, I'll tell you the secret is even the people who leave hater reviews, it might have helped them.
Wow, that's powerful too.
Of course. And then you get to where it's like a game. Like when someone says something hateful, if I happen to go in there, I just respond with a question. Understand that a question mark is much more powerful than an exclamation point. I can get you all to change your life because I can get you to change your question that you ask yourself. So when someone says, oh, this is horrible, why are you even showing this to people? We don't even care about it. I mean, you can respond with, that's interesting. What do you think I could have done better? See how many haters will give you some good advice.
Right.
Flip it back. Like, are you this hard on everyone in your life? Are you this hard on yourself? Because people who do that, they are. And they're sad people. And then you're like, wow, they have to live with themselves. I just had to not even read their comment.
Yeah.
And it changes your energy when you go about it. Because you said it yourself. You wanted to put something out there and you hope it helps someone. Mission accomplished.
All right. Perfect. Next.
Everybody give her a hand. Eh? I love it. And that's it, guys. I mean, we all feel the same way. I think yesterday, the video I uploaded, I think maybe 850 videos I've uploaded on YouTube. And I get nervous every time I upload a video. I used to ask myself the question, like, is this good enough? Is this an okay video? I wonder if people are going to watch this one. Will this one do better than the other one? With all these questions, all of these questions have led me to lose my control. Because I'm putting it in your hands or whoever's hands it goes on, and I'm waiting for feedback to validate myself. And this is what we all go through. We wait for someone else to validate us instead of knowing, like, changing your question or not even make it a question. I'm putting it out there and I hope it's a blessing to someone. Or as Jean said, I just hope that it helps someone out there. Because then you think about the energetics, as we talked about at the beginning of this session, the energetics going into something where you're just like, I hope this helps someone else. I hope this is a blessing to someone else. I'm going to give my best. Like, this changes everything because you're not putting this out expecting a certain outcome. And when you don't have that block, what a lot of people do is they put something out and then, you know, when you just like refresh it 1,000 times to see if more people liked it or more people comment on it and you got nothing. What happens when you get nothing? You get that little drop and just like, oh. Because you just put your validation in someone else's hands. Now I still put my videos out there. I still look to see how things are going. I still look to see, are people liking this? Because then now I look at it to ask myself the question, like, okay, do I need to do more of this? Now I read the comments to realize, like, what do people need right now? My analytic of my comments are much different. I'm not reading comments to validate what I said. That doesn't mean anything. Because I could care less about because I can say the same thing to all of you guys, and you can all think different things. That's not on me. My job is to give you guys the best I can, and then I'm gone. It's on you guys. Because I'll do a little exercise with you guys. I like to do with people, okay? So everyone in here, it would be better if you close your eyes for this, okay? So once you close your eyes, I want you to imagine you're sitting at a coffee shop. You're sitting there by yourself, nice music playing, you got your coffee, and you're just looking out the window. And then you look at the door of the coffee shop, and there's a little bell on the door when someone opens it, and that little bell rings and someone opens the door. And they walk in there, and they are so attractive. Like you can't imagine the last time you saw someone like that. They had the biggest smile, and they looked right at you, and you smiled back at them. Nothing too harmful, just a nice smile. And they smiled, and they waved at you, and you waved back, and they went and ordered their coffee. Now you guys all open your eyes. Now raise your hand if you saw a guy walk in there. Raise your hand if you saw a girl walk in there. Interesting. I said the exact same thing, but you guys all saw different people. Now, usually in a one-on-one setting, we go into that and say, well, what were they wearing? What did they look like? What was their eye color? Did they have a big smile? What was it like? And everyone will have something different in their mind. And that's how it is when you're putting stuff out there for the world. Everyone's going to see something different from what you say, because everyone filters it through their own perspective. And this is something that's important to remember. I can't control. I'm responsible for what I say. I'm not responsible for what other people hear. Just as every single word, every single sentence I'm telling you guys, all of you are hearing it differently. You're all connecting it with your story. When I tell you a story, you guys are thinking of a story that applies to you. You guys don't care about my story. Because you're like, well, where can I get out of this? This is how our brains think. So it's very important to remember that this fear that we have to put stuff out there is most of the time because we're trying to have it validated. And this is where it causes conflict with us, because we fear what the validation is going to be, or if it's going to be valid or not valid. And the question is, if you're always looking for it to not be valid because you're fearful of that, it's always there. Someone who's scared to lose money, when you give them more money, what do you think happens? It's still there. You're scared even more. The fear doesn't go away. We think that it does. So many things. I love to use money because we're so attached to it to determine everything. Like if you were to, one of the biggest examples I give, and I've actually had this happen before, it was a mistake. And I actually letting you guys know I didn't keep the money. But there was an extra zero in my bank account. There's an extra zero. This was like a long time ago. This is like when I was like 16 years old. So there's a lot of money back then. I think I don't remember how much I had in my bank account, maybe like $150 in my bank account. I think I was like 15, maybe 16 years old. And I remember I had like $1,500 in there. They made a mistake around Christmas time with the accounting. And my self-esteem just like bursted, and I just was like so excited, like I'm gonna go and just buy a bunch of random stuff. I don't even know what. Because I was still the same person. I just couldn't do it before because I didn't have the money to do it. And if I'm fearful of money, for example, and I were to add that extra zero, it would add extra pressure. I can tell you from doing cryptocurrency and everything, and stocks and all that, losing 1%, losing 10% is losing 10%. We can all sit at a table. I don't know if any of you guys do stock or crypto. If you guys, I would recommend crypto. But if we're sitting at a table and you said you lost 10% of your money that day, but you only had $100, and I said I lost 10%, I had 100,000, and someone else sitting there had lost 10%, they had 100 million, we all would feel the same. It's all the same. It's the same. And it's just a little bit, we feel like it's amplified. You're like, well, you don't understand. And we would look at the millionaire and be like, you don't understand, millionaire. This is all I had was like $100 and it's gone. And the millionaire's like, you don't understand. That was $10 million that I lost. And we would try to argue one of those like pity argues to see who has the worst situation. You know those? Not that any of you guys have those. But this is just something where you're just like, wait a minute. Because it's the same energy. It's the same energy with things. The fear is always going to be with you. And, I'm going to give you, and I'll try to wrap up on this story. And I don't know, I've maybe told this story once before. I've told the story twice. I know I told it once, but it was in a private seminar, but I've told it on a social media before. I don't remember if you guys have heard of it. For those of you that haven't, we have a dog named Luna. She's a Bali dog, rescue dog. If you guys come here, I highly recommend you can take one of these dogs. They have so many of them. And, we brought her home one night. This is when we were living in another place. We had a villa, and there was a huge open pool. We had this pool in the middle, and next to it was like a little patch of grass, and that was like her spot. It's where we fed her every day. So we feed her, and sometimes we get in the pool and eat, but she'd always be in this patch of grass. That was Luna's spot. But what happened is sometimes when we went there, we left the food out, and she wouldn't eat she doesn't eat the rice, so we just the chicken and leave the rice. So in the mornings we look there, and there's be thousands of ants, and these are the ants that bite, And so she never goes to it in the morning, so we're like, it's fine. And then one day we forget to feed her, and we had moved the rice and everything so she didn't eat it. And we came home, and I remember we came home in the night. And actually before, I'm leaving out a very crucial thing in the story. So usually when she eats food, we're in the pool, and then we try to get her in the pool, like, come join us. She hates the pool. She never goes in the pool. Like, I have to take her and go slowly into the pool water with her, and then she's just panicking the whole time, and then she finally relaxes. And then we just like let her swim to the side and get out. And we do it just to make her feel comfortable in the water, in case she ever falls in. So she never goes in. We call her every time, and then we have to yell at her, and then she'll walk over, then we can grab her. She never will just come in the pool. So sometimes when we're eating, she's there having her food next to us, and it's like pretty cool. And one night we come home, it's the middle of the night, and we come home and we forgot to feed her that day, but we had some fish that we got her from the street food, from the street people. People here in Bali, they have motorcycles. They go, everyone has a scooter, and on the back they have like a huge cabinet, and they make the food out of the back. We don't eat it so much, but our dog loves it, and people find that offensive. Just like, why is that offensive? Our dog loves you guys' food. Like, it's not offensive. I love my dog more than most humans, so it should actually be, if I'm willing to feed it to her, then you can know it's okay. And so we got it, and we gave her the fish, and we put the fish down in the normal spot. In the normal spot. We're not going in the pool, though. She's just going to come eat the fish. We put it in Luna's spot. We put the fish down, and it's two huge fish. Put it down, and we go like into our little living room area. And I go in the back in the kitchen, and all of a sudden, my girlfriend Dana, she's just like, yo, something's wrong with Luna. And I look at her, and she's sprinting around the yard. She's sprinting up, and we have a long yard, like, because the pool's long, and then the grass goes right along. She's sprinting up, she's sprinting back, and I was like, she's fine, she's just excited. And then she jumps next to me on the couch, because I got my drink, I'm sitting down, she's just rolling on the couch, she's biting herself. And we're just like, we start freaking out. I start getting worried, like something's happened to her. Like, we think she's having an allergic reaction to the fish. And she's still jumping up and down, and she's like kind of screaming a little bit and biting herself. And we're like, what the hell? And then I kind of get up and walk away, and I look on the couch to see if anything's there. There's nothing. And she's still running around like crazy. And then I'm freaking out, like we think something's on her. Like, there's nothing, this isn't an allergic reaction, something's on her right now, and it's hurting her. She's screaming and running around. And my first reaction is like father mentality, like a Superman. I just take my phone out of my pocket, throw it on the couch, and I just jump in the pool, like, come here. And she never comes to the pool. And I kid you not, she sprinted from the couch, sprinted, and jumped into the pool. And it was like, we were mind blown. We both were like, we've been trying to get her in the pool for like 4 months. Jumped into the pool. And then Dana said, she's like, oh, I guess her desire outweighed her fear. And I remember being in the pool just like, whoa, that's a profound statement. She didn't like the pool. She was fearful of it. But in that moment in time, her desire to get out of that pain was stronger than her fear to get in the water. And I became like, and that was just like that was the wake up call. If you want to conquer fear, you want to beat this fear, you have to have the desire. It has to be stronger. And when I meet people and they don't want to change, or they don't, or for some reason I see them not doing what needs to be done because of the fear, it's just because their desire is not strong enough. That's how I know people are lying when they say, I really want to change the world, but I'm scared to put myself out there. My now I don't even think twice about it. I'm like, well, your desire to do isn't strong enough. It's not. Right now, my desire isn't strong enough to do certain things that I want to do. And it's really much harder to do it now. Like back in March, my desire to work out, March and April, my desire to work out was pretty intense because I had gained like 5 or 6 kilos sitting around, not doing anything, not leaving the house. But now it's not at that point now. The desire is not as strong. So I'm realizing that I have to change my desire. So anytime you're struggling, you need to understand that you need to get your desire to outweigh your fear. That's why the why is so important. And I know we said we shouldn't ask why, but knowing the purpose. What is the purpose? Just change it to that. Change the question to that. What is my purpose? And I believe there was a question. I think I skipped it actually. Start kind of seeing through. It's going to start kind of. I'm reading one of the questions. I remember seeing a question earlier. Why? I was going to talk about why does that bring up the defense? Because with why, when it comes to why and why, I don't believe that it's proper to say this, because anytime you were a kid and you said you wanted to do something, you were always asked why. Like you needed a reason to do something. Like if someone's smiling, like it's funny because now I ask people, I'm like, what are you smiling? Why are you smiling? I ask people that all the time. And people will give me the answer like, oh, I'm just happy today. But about 1 out of every 5 people I ask, and these are the people who, they're like me, they're like, why do I need a reason to smile? And I'm just like, that's the right answer. The right answer is never a reason. You don't need a reason to smile. You don't need one. And it's so true with that. You got to ask yourself this. What is my true desire? What is my reason for what this thing that I want to do? Because without the reason, you'll just fall back into the same pattern if you don't have a strong enough reason. You know, I use for planning my life and what I do. I'm a big student of Tony Robbins, and you know, he uses a method called the rapid planning method. Now I won't go all into it, but basically it says you need to, first of all, know the result you want. Know what it is that you want, the outcome. Number one, what's the result that you want? And the next thing is like, what's the reason for you doing it? What's the purpose? What purpose do you want? What's the reason for what? And then the next thing is taking a massive action to get it. Like there needs to be some kind of massive action strategy. Without massive action, just forget it. So anyone who wants to put themselves out there, make a video today on social media explaining why you want to start sharing yourself with the world. That's a massive action strategy right there. That's massive action. Because massive action forces you to face your fear. And why I always get people to think about the results. People say fall in love with the process, and I think that's true. That's absolutely important. But if you can fall in love with the result, then sometimes you don't even think about the process. You know, a lot of things that my clients do, a lot of struggle I realize my clients do is they're all overachievers. And sometimes overachievers don't get anything done because they're too busy. We all know people, not saying it's you, but we all know people who are super busy but don't get things done. And it's just like you need to have that purpose, that reason why you're doing it. What's the result that you want? Because the activity can change. You can do a to-do list and keep filling it out for the rest of your life. You keep doing it. But what's the result that you want? This is the thing. See you, brother. I'll be the same. It's the result, guys. It's the result. Look at that. You focus on the result. When you focus on that, everything changes. because you realize there's a million activities you can do to get that result. A million activities. But until you can get that desire to be greater than your fear, then fear will always be in the way. And the most beautiful thing that you guys are going to realize is that when you get past that fear, the thing you're so scared to do, you'll be like, what the hell took me so long? And you've done it before. You're just not aware of it. Like you guys are, you've done it a million times, and you're just totally unaware of it. You were scared to do something, you did it, and then what happened? You don't even think about it anymore. That's how little it was. It didn't even mean anything. It could be anything. Went on a trip by yourself, hung out with new friends, tried a different place. You did something, and you're like, oh, I'm glad I did that. And that's it. And then the other thing I like to get people to do, and it's the last thing I'll say to you all, is to look at it a different way. So everything, as I said, is linked pain to pleasure, pain to pleasure. This is how we make our decisions. Another thing when it comes to our fears, you're not linking enough pain to your inaction. It's still just okay. Link enough pain to it, you'll change. You'll change quick. I want you to think about what your biggest fear is. And then I want you to think about what is it costing you. It's a question I want you to ask yourself. So if I can give you guys some work to do on your own, like I say, this is totally optional, but you'll get the most out of it by filling it out. The first question is, what's your biggest fear? And I would write all these out 3 times. So what's your biggest fear once, and then find your second biggest fear and your third biggest fear. So what's your biggest fear? Then I want you guys to write out, how has it held you back? So how has this fear held you back? And then the last question I want you to ask yourself is, if you keep listening to this fear, what will it cost you? And like I say, journal about this, go on a rant about this to yourself, but really think about that. Think deeply about what will it cost you if you keep going, if you keep not responding to this action that you have. You know, maybe before this is over, or maybe I can record it and put it in Memorable, and I'll take you guys through a process. I'll take you through a reprogramming process. Possibly I can possibly get it recorded. Maybe we can do it live. I don't know about, maybe do it live. I don't know. It brings out a lot of emotion for people, and everyone doesn't come back the same. So maybe I'll possibly record it, because if you guys don't know, it's like a process where you close your eyes, you really get into a theta state, very like hypnotic kind of state, but your consciousness is taken over. You're very subconscious, and you literally pull that fear up and see it. And one thing I do with my clients is I take them down this process of this thing that they're scared of doing, this fear. And if they keep doing it, what will it cost them? And then I take them down 1 month. What will the fear do? What will it cost them? What will they look like when they look at themselves in the mirror? Then we go 6 months. Then we go again, do it another time. Look a year, looking at yourself in front of the mirror. Looking at yourself, what are you thinking? Then we skip ahead 5 years. The same fear that you have that's been holding you back. What does it cost you? What do you look like? How do you feel? How do you feel about yourself looking in the mirror, knowing you've let this thing hold you back? Then I usually take them down another path. 10 years, they go down this path of what it's costing you. 10 years. You look at yourself in the mirror. What do you look like? How are you feeling? What are the thoughts that's going through your head? Then I take them down one more path. And you guys thinking about this right now won't hurt. You can think about it. But you can think about it 15 years down the road. If you keep letting this fear hold you back. You look in the mirror again. at your face, look at your eyes. How would you feel? And then this process usually finishes off with me saying the screen goes black, dark, and you wake up. You're in a hospital bed. You're in a hospital bed right now, and you're looking down at yourself. You're in an IV. You've let this fear get you this far. Then in this process, you look at the doctor, and he looks sad, and he's shaking his head. And you can whisper him something to tell yourself, the person who you are right now. That version of you in 15 years is going to whisper something to the doctor, and the doctor is going to tell you who you are. And when you do this process, something comes to your mind. That one little piece of advice that they wish they would have done 15 years ago. Just one little sentence that they tell you. They tell it to the doctor. And they whisper it to the doctor in his ear. Then you're there, hospital bed, and you close your eyes, keep your eyes closed, and 2 months later you open your eyes. And you'd be here with me. And you know what that version would have told you. And with a lot of my clients and people I've done this with, it's usually start right now. Or sometimes I've heard, don't fuck this up. Or maybe it's you have everything you need. Why did you wait so long? Everyone has their own thing that they say. Because no one's going to remember all these things that you were scared of. Things you were scared of when you were 20, you look at now like, what the hell? I don't know, some of you guys are super young, so when you're 15, then you don't even care about this stuff anymore. But the problem is the fear does hold you back from experiencing the best, fullest life. I want the fullest life for you guys. I want all of you guys to be happy and sharing and running your own programs that I can be a part of. But as long as the fear is there, the fear stays with you. And I could have just ended this session 30 minutes ago. But this is so important because if you don't change the fear and conquer it, it comes back. It comes back when you're further down the road. It comes back in the worst time. It's something about understanding like the person who you are, they're with you everywhere you go. You can change the external environment and it'll last for a little bit, but it'll slowly creep back up. Someone who's scared to be alone, they'll always feel alone. If you're fearful of being alone, you can be with the best person in the world. Now it's amplified. Now you're fearful they're going to leave you, so you'll be alone. Changes the energetics of the relationship a little bit. Fear. Me, my biggest fear, when I did this with Tony Robbins. When I did this, my biggest fear was my fear of missing out. That was my biggest fear. Mine was an open-ended fear. I could finish it with anything. Fear that I'm missing out on, I could be making something. I could be creating something. So if I keep this fear there, what will it end up costing me? It'll cost me everything. Because I'll never be present because I'll feel like I'm missing out. I was a guy who went to 5 different parties. Like I was a totally different animal. I'm the same beast, but I was a different animal back then. I was a different kind of animal. I missed out on everything. I felt like I was. Like I was a guy who, we finish our basketball games at 10 o'clock in France. I'd stay after till 11, talking to everyone there because I didn't want to miss out on anyone there, thanking them for coming to the game. I'd go to the restaurant with my team at 11 to 11:30. Then I'd go out to the party in France around midnight. I'd only stay there till about 12, just to make an appearance, say hello to the owners, And I jumped in my car and I drove to Barcelona. It was only an hour away, hour and a half away. I drive into Barcelona. I park my car, same spot every time. I jump on my skateboard, skate all the way down to the beach where my friends are. Because it's about 1 a.m. and people are still kind of eating sometimes then. I'd be there at 1 a.m. with my friends, but they weren't my friends who went to my favorite club. They went to a different one. So I'd go out with them. I'd leave my skateboard at the restaurant, come back for it the next day. I'd go with them into the club. We'd have a fun time till maybe like 2:30, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, I'm going to my favorite club. You guys ever go to Barcelona? Down in Rambla, there's a place called Jamboree. We call it La Casa. It means the house. It's my house. Basically, it was a club that I really loved. And I get there around 3:30. That's about the time that it's like kind of like the line's packed. Everyone's going in. And if you guys are American watching this, then it doesn't make any sense because people usually are asleep by then. But here, people party until 8. So I do that. I'd run around. I go to Jamboree. I get to this place at 3:30 in the morning. I'd stay till maybe like 6. Then at 6, there'd be like the after party. I usually didn't go to the after party, but I went with people to get food before the after party so I could be around everyone. And then before I knew it, it'd be 6:37. Then I'm like, oh man, I kind of got to go home because I got like one more day and we're doing the same thing tomorrow here. So I'll practice the next day on Sunday. And I go home and get some sleep, or I go with people wherever we were going and I pass out. And I wake up in the morning and my whole day was structured around going around all these places so I didn't miss out. And do I regret any of that? No, I had a fun time. But that fun time was run by fear. As much as I say it was run by fun, because I had a lot of fun. I loved it. And understand that this process repeated itself for 4 years, every other weekend. Like I'm a high energetic individual. It's the only reason I didn't crash and burn. But that's another program. But it was a fear. That entire regime that I did was out of fear. It was fear that I was missing out, fear that I wouldn't see all the people that I had to see, fear that they would forget who I was at these places, so I had to show up all the time. It was run by fear. But I introduce you real quick. You can run everything on just love. You can do things just because you love it. Instead of being fearful I'd miss out on all these certain places, I could have just said, you know what? I care about all these people, but when the game's over, I'm going to Barcelona with my friends. I'll do that first. That's all I want to do. I could operate on love. And as crazy as the formula is for love, if you've ever looked at the formula for oxytocin, for example, this is the formula for serotonin, which is the happiness. This is like, and I have this, if you guys have seen, I have it to remind myself of that. If you look at the formula, I'll try to pull it up right now. Serotonin basically is what makes you happy. So anyone, if you're trying to follow your happiness, it's pretty simple. Because I'm going to try to, you can run things on happiness, or you can run things on fear, or you can run things on love. And love is hard to define because everyone defines it differently. But if I could have just run things on what made me happy. Would it make me happy going to all those places? No, absolutely not. It was the fear that held me back. I'm going to pull up oxytocin for you guys. Funny, I just pulled this up for one of my friends earlier. I ran into them while I was going. This will probably change your guys' life and change the way you look at love.
I've often wondered what that symbol was on your shirt. You should say that in your video sometime.
I will. I should do it. People have told me about it. People have told me.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm about to pull up trying to find a good picture. So basically, I think this is a good one. So this is serotonin, happiness, that's found in your digestive system. And this, my friends, is for, hold on, you got to see the whole thing. That's love. That's the formula for love. So when people say love is complicated, I'm not saying they have a valid point, but a child doesn't do things using this. Whoa, there's a grasshopper on mine. Okay, okay. People do this, fun. If I guarantee if you're having fun doing something, then you're going to probably love it. If you have fun with someone, you're probably going to fall in love with them. Guy or girl, best friend, coworker, doesn't matter. And every time you're faced with these opposing things, fear, or you can choose something else. What's more fun to you? Question to ask yourself. I get a lot of people ask me, especially people who I meet on the street and they find out what I do. Like, how do you run your business? How do you run these different things? What's the best way to do it? I'm like, well, and I asked them back, like, what do you, which ways do you try? I'm like, oh, I've been learning how to make a website. I've been learning how to do the coding. I've been learning how to do this. And I'm like, well, what is that? That doesn't sound too fun to you. It doesn't sound too fun what your plan is. And it doesn't sound fun. I think it's going to be harder to love it. So the question I like to ask you guys is, what's the more fun way for you to do it? What would have been the more fun way for me to enjoy my Saturday night? Running around like a chicken with his head cut off until 3:30 when I finally got to the place I wanted to go. You don't have to run everything on fear. There's a lot better emotions. And doing it on the fear of missing out, I still have fun. But you're seeking something. So remember to beat this fear, to know your reason, and to bring that desire to do that, whatever that reason is. Make that desire stronger than your fears. So I hope you guys have and it's funny, Luna, come here. My dog is protecting me from monkeys. Yeah. I told a story about you. And this is little Luna, who was scared of she's the one who had all of the, don't play over there. Who had all the ants on her down. So you got to remember, as Luna showed us, once you can get the desire greater than your fear, there's nothing holding you back. Desire. The desire. Boom. Give one more boom and we'll end on that. Boom. I love it. Love you guys. Send me any questions you guys have. Feel free to write me an email, anything like that. I'll get back to you. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. All you guys who got up early or late, I appreciate it. Take it easy. See you guys on Thursday.